In the last video, I showed you how to use basic sword combat. In this video, I'll teach you some more advanced maneuvers, one of which is called Springer tactics. Usually you would hold a sword like this. In Springer, you hold a sword like this. Your sword is backwards and it's facing your opponent. And it's all about dodging, not attacking. Your opponent comes in with a sword, you jump to the side, and slash. Your opponent does the other way, same thing, slash. And it's much more complicated because not only do you have to know how to fight forward with one hand, or forward, you actually have to know how to fight forward with both hands. Also, Springer, you slash, twist it around, slash, slash, twist it around, slash, stab. You use both your hands at both angles. It's a very advanced combat, and it was also very hard to learn. Usually after you would master sword fighting with your right, or whatever your dominant hand was back then, they would teach you sword fighting with your other hand. And most Templar Knights, if you've ever heard of them, they are some of the most deadliest warriors in the world. Now the Templar Knights had to know how to fight not only with both hands, but with Springer tactics. With dual swords and with dual Springer, they had to know how to fight with just about any weapon there was. And that's how you can see Springer is a very complicated form of combat. Now, dual Springer is even more complicated. Well, that depends on your standpoint on your fighting style. Dual Springers have to be able to block and strike with both, and they have to have a very fluent motion in each. Springers never stop moving their swords. Their swords are always in motion, no matter what. One sword is always going either in, and also, most Springers had not a ball on the end, but instead it was a knife point, where they could also go in for jabs. So if a guy came in, they could dodge, jab, 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 stab the guy behind them, and cut off their head. Long sword Springers were not very common. Why? The long sword, the weight was not in the middle, as you can see. The weight was all in the blade and not in the handle. So it was very hard to lift the sword up itself. These are made of foam, so no, they are not hard to lift. But the swords, you would have to be able to lift the blade itself, and you'd have to be able to block other heavy blades coming at you. So for a long sword to be used as a Springer back then was actually not very common unless you were pulling it out and coming back to block an oncoming attack while you were unsuspected. That was the only real time anyone ever fought with their sword backwards, was to do a overhead block at the last second. Yeah, so Springer tactics, if you want to learn them, I'm not very sure where you can find Springer tactics because not a lot of people teach them. But go ahead, look on the internet for Springer combat because it's very fun to do actually. I used to do Springer a lot and it's a real fun thing to do. I taught myself a few Springer moves as well, and you can probably look up on YouTube or Google or something like that to find videos on how to do it. I'm not going to go into much detail because you guys who are doing the movie will be personally being trained by me, so you'll have more experience. But since this is a video clip, I'm not going to put in all the detail. Thank you very much.